Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Mets Central, your source for everything New York Met baseball. I'm going to be previewing the upcoming series between the Mets and the Miami Marlins beginning tomorrow night in Miami. I'm going to go over weather report for the weekend, injuries, pitching matchups, pitching rotations, pitching staffs. We're going to look at statistics of pitching. We're going to look at team stats. We're going to look at team batting stats. We're going to look at pitchers versus batters. We're going to dissect it all, break it all down, and at the very end, I'm going to basically tell you what I believe are some of the key things the Mets need to do to have some success this weekend, beginning tomorrow night against these pesky Marlins. So if you enjoy baseball, you love MLB, you love the beloved New York Mets like I do, we bleed orange and blue like myself, make sure you drop a like on the video. It's a brand new channel. It definitely helps it out. And consider becoming a part of the community here. I plan to do not only Mets preview series videos. I'm going to be doing game previews. So there'll be another video tomorrow regarding the game preview. There'll be a recap show, which I'll discuss what I saw over the course of the game and be able to tell you a little bit of what I felt, was some of the key things that got us the win or possibly put us in a position that we lost the game. So we're going to discuss that all. And on top of that, I will do possibly a weekly recap of what's happening in the minor leagues with the AAA team and the AA team, maybe even single A. I've been watching just the AA and the AAA teams on minor league baseball TV. So I watch baseball. I love baseball. I think it's the greatest game ever played. So again, consider becoming a part of the community. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to put on your post notifications. And that is that. This way you don't miss out on any of this upcoming content. That's pretty much it, man. So with that being said, let's get right to it. So the series, the Mets are playing the Marlins tomorrow. Let's look at weather. Weather's not going to be a factor, all right? First things first, Miami, we know there's tendencies of rain coming out of nowhere. But right now, a little while ago, I looked at the weather. It looks pretty clear for Miami. No chance of rain. But you never know. It might be a little sprinkle here and there, but we don't have to concern ourselves about that because Miami does have a retractable roof. So if they know weather's coming, that it's not going to be ideal, and there's some rain coming, they will just close the roof before the game comes. So 82 degrees throughout the 3 games. Beautiful weather. I don't see it being a factor. So we're not going to worry about weather. So weather's good. Injury report, man. Wow. What can I say? Our injury report, our list is huge. We started the year with 26-man roster, and we thought a lot of these guys were going to be here for the long haul. Obviously, we never try to think about injuries because we know they do happen, but not like this. This has been really they're dropping like hotcakes. But let's look at the list right now. On a 60-day, IR right now, we still have Dylan Betances that he's still ways to go. He's not even practicing yet. We have Cookie Carrasco, who's actually been with the pitching staff and been with the team. So I think he's very close. I think he's going to definitely be someone to really look out for going into the month of June. And then we have Seth Lugo, already had one good solid inning, the other night. So he's done well. He's already come in. So he's very close to getting back there. We could really use Seth Lugo, even though our bullpen has been pretty solid. I mean, there's been a couple of little hiccups here and there, but they've been pretty good thus far. Jose Martinez will be another positive bat in this lineup as far as coming off the bench and getting some playing time here and there. I haven't heard any news on how close he is, but he's on a 60-day with that knee. And then we have, of course, Noah Syndergaard. And man, isn't it great news to see the Syndergaard pitch 4 scoreless innings the other day? I think it was yesterday or the day before. He is coming along really good. I see him coming to this pitching staff probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So Noah Syndergaard is almost there. And then we got all these other guys with other injuries. We got J.D. Davis still on the 10-day with the finger. We still have Luis Guillorme with the oblique. He's probably going to be longer than J.D. I think J.D. is very close. Jeff McNeil with the hamstring. Brandon Nemo still with the finger. I think he's getting ready to be back soon. Alberto Amara with the shoulder. He is out for a little while with the 10-day. Kevin Pillar got that hit in the face. So he has those fractures in his nose. It's going to be a little while for him as well. Conforto with the hamstring, also on the 10-day. Then we got Taijuan Walker, obviously with the tightness on the left side of the back. And then, of course, DeGrom should be very close. I think he's going to do he's going to do a rehab start, I believe tomorrow or Saturday. And hopefully he'll be coming through with flying colors, and we can get the Grominator back in our lineup by next week for the next rotation. Then, of course, just recently, Pete Alonso is day-to-day. That's 15 key players that we can use bench players as well as starters, and there's a lot of starters here if you think about it. Carrasco's a starter. Noah Syndergaard would be a starter on this team as in the pitching, DeGrom, and Taijuan Walker. So we really don't have anybody really in our pitching staff. But we're so far been managing to play well. We had a 3-game series that we just completed with Atlanta, and we were in every single damn game. We should have been able to pull out yesterday's game as well. It didn't pan out that well. I mean, hey, Ronald Acuna, we can hold him 0 for 9, but at some point he may come through, and he came through, and you tip your hat off to him. He hit a shot, and he got his team a win, even though that was his first hit against the Mets this past week. So that's just the way it is, and good players, they come through at some point. So, but yeah, a lot of guys here that we can definitely be using. J.D. Davis is a starter. McNeil, we know already. Conforto. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Luis Guillorme was a regular at third base when J.D. wasn't playing. But let's talk about a little bit before I move on to some of the stats and looking at the matchups for the entire weekend. I mean, we got to tip our hats off to the guys for management and the way Luis Rojas has been managing and using the pitchers in the bullpen. I think he's done a fairly good job, and I think also there's been great decisions on who plays what positions, and guys have stepped up. Before Pilar got hurt, he was excellent, good defender, can run the bases, can't possibly steal the bases, very scrappy, and of course on top of that, he has some pop in his bat and he can give you some offense. He got hurt now, but man, other guys step up. JV, Jonathan VR has been fantastic as well, coming in, spelling relief for J.D. Davis. He's been playing a solid third base, obviously a better third baseman, even though he's not a traditional third baseman. He's a better third baseman than J.D. has been up to this point. But at the same time, what he brings to the table, man, again, table setter, capable of getting a hit. He's very aggressive in the base pass. He's willing to steal bases. He's got good speed. His defense is good, and he's been coming through offensively. He's popped a few home runs, come through in certain situations in some of the games that he has played in. These guys have been valuable. KP, Villar, look at the young kid Mazika coming up and getting 2 walk-offs by just walking to first base. It's just, this is what it's all about. This is what's going to take to win games, is the other guys got to step up when the big dogs are not there. So Jose Peraza has been fantastic too, filling in at second base for McNeil. He's got a couple of hits here and there. And look at Tomas Nieto coming through over the last couple of games. James McCann has been really poor with his hitting, but fantastic defensively. So we got to give him props there. He's got to get the bat together. But then we're looking at Francisco Lindor, one of my favorite players in the team, one of my favorite players in all of the MLB, really struggling here in New York. But man, as a supporter of him, I cannot turn my back on Francisco Lindor. And I tell you, the rest of the Met fans out there in MLB, let's give this guy, he needs more time. If he's been, I've said it over and over again to some of the people I normally talk to. And, of course, at the beginning, he was pressing. I find him to be a little more relaxed now. But when it doesn't go his way, you can see that he's very disappointed. He might not say he isn't, but he is. I coached travel baseball for 17 years with youngsters from 12. I had them as young as 10 years old and all the way to 17. And a lot of competitive baseball. I know situations. I feel that I do know the game very, very well. I won't say I'm perfect. I know everything or I'm the best. But I evaluate games and I analyze games according to the way I would do things on the field and what I've learned from watching Major League Baseball and actually learning from people that I played with years back. So I like the way these guys have stepped up. There's players that have come through and have helped out on this team, and that's what guys are going to continue to do, and that's how it is in any team sport. Somebody goes down, somebody's got to step in, take advantage of the opportunity, and make things happen. So McCann has got to get it going. Lindor's got to get it going. But if those two guys can get cooking, holy man, how tough this team is going to be when we get Conforto back, McNeil, and everybody is on point and everybody's in sync, working with one another and playing very, very well. They're going to be a very, very tough team to beat the Mets if they're scoring 4, 5, 6 runs a game on average with the pitching staff that we have. We're doing very well right now without having a few guys on board. DeGrom hasn't pitched in his last rotation. We have no Syndergaard yet. We have no Carrasco. Man, David Peterson shows signs of sometimes being good, like he did in his last outing. Go 4 innings. It looked like he actually had a no-hitter going for 4 innings. And then all of a sudden, he just implodes in the 5th inning. And that's the thing. Luke Casey's been the same way. It's just not been consistent. But Luis Rojas has done the right thing. Has gotten a couple guys out of the bullpen, used that strategy, get 1 or 2 guys to come in there, pitch an inning or two, and then maybe you can get a Lucchesi in there. I understand maybe Jordan Yamamoto is going to come up and probably pitch Saturday or Sunday. So we'll see how it all pans out. But I got to give props to those guys. Those are good managerial moves or management as far as general manager and assistant managers in getting those key players that are scrappy guys like Kevin Pillar and Jonathan VR. Those were very, very good pickups. Alomar hasn't turned out to be that good, but these two guys and Peraza were very good pickups. Guys that are veterans, been on good teams, been in good situations, are tough as nails. Both Pillar and as well as VR bring that speed aspect to the lineup. Other than Nemo, Lindor, if he can get on more often, is a guy that can steal some bases. Conforto could steal here and there, but the key guys will be guys like VR, guys like Pillar, and of course, Lindor, McNeil. These are guys that are capable of stealing some bases. We need that speed, and that's what I like is that we got some better defense, some scrappy players that can play defense, can get around and be disciplined at the plate and drive the ball and get some runs and even have enough pop to hit a couple of home runs here and there. And then when they get on base, they're pretty good at being aggressive and stealing bases. And Luis Rojas knows that now, and he is starting to let guys go. And you got to play that kind of baseball when you have some speedsters, and if they are able to steal bases, why not? So and I'm all for that. But the Mets haven't been a good base stealing team in many years because they don't have enough speed. And now at least they got some guys that can definitely get the wheels going. Then they bring up the young kid, Lee, who's very, very fast. But if he's going to strike out, 9 times out of 10 at the plate, he's not going to be that efficient as far as stealing bases. But we would love him to get going, get on base, and let's see what you can do with the base pads. He's incredible in the outfield. Showed those 2 fantastic plays the other day against Atlanta. I mean, those are mind-blowing for a kid coming up, pressure situation, 22 years old, first opportunity to play with the major league team, and he goes out there and he saves us, defensively. He saved us a few runs. He actually kept us in the game because of those plays. So those are the things I look at when I watch in baseball. But anyway, I'm yapping away, and I tell you again, if you tune into my channel, I'm going to be yapping. I'm going to have rants. I'm going to have everything, because I'm very into the analytics, all into the statistics, all into how the players have the right approach at the plate. Pitchers have the right approach at the plate. It's a mindset that is so important in baseball. In any sport, you have to be focused. And that's what I look for when I'm watching at bats. I mean, when I'm watching shifts and guys are not trying to put the ball the other way, especially when pitchers make mistakes. It's so on and so forth. I like breaking things down like that. So you're going to get used to seeing that here. But anyway, all right. So let's look at the situation. So we did the weather. We did the injury report. And when it comes down, when it comes down to other factors of this game. So let's look at the series. Right now, personally, between pitching staffs, we don't know exactly what the Mets are going to do. We do know that more than likely Marcus Stroman is pitching tomorrow night, and the Marlins more than likely are going to throw Pablo Lopez. So let's look at Friday's game. Pablo Lopez and Marcus Stroman going at it. We're going to look at those numbers as well. We're going to look at how the pitching staffs have done this year. I'm going to I'll show you my spreadsheet on what I put down as far as what are the key statistics that I look for, especially because I also have a tendency of playing some fantasy baseball. So I look at a lot of the statistics to figure out more or less how to make decisions. But let's look at the situation. So we got Saturday. We don't know who's going to pitch. We know that more than likely for the Marlins, they're going to probably either pitch Curtis, Poteet, or Polly Rogers. Rogers has been their best pitcher. All right. The Mets right now, we know that Jordan Yamamoto is going to pitch possibly one of those 2 games. So we don't know who's pitching Saturday, if he's pitching Saturday, and who's pitching Sunday. Sunday it may be Joey Lucchesi. I don't know. I hope not, but maybe they'll have him not start. I could see Luis Rojas doing that, maybe not starting Lucchesi on Sunday, but maybe having a guy like Miguel Castro or Gesellman come in, pitch hopefully 2 innings, and then maybe bring in a Lucchesi. I don't know. I don't know if they should start Lucchesi. I haven't been impressed with him. I didn't think he was a good addition to this team at the beginning. Don't like his herky-jerky mechanics, but they brought him in here, and he hasn't been effective. He hasn't been able to pitch 5-6 solid straight innings for us. Peterson shows some potential, and I think he has a better pitcher than Lucchesi, but he needs to work on his mental. He needs to, if you're a bulldog, it's a total different mentality when you're playing baseball and you're a pitcher. You got to be a damn animal when you're on that mound. It's about you taking people out, making them look bad and not letting them make you look bad. And he has a tendency of doing that for a couple innings. Then he gets inconsistent and he starts having mental lapses. And the next thing you know, boom, he shells out, 3-4 runs in one inning real quickly. And the whole thing can turn on him that fast. So as soon as he can get some consistency, have the right mindset, the right approach, I think he'll be fine. David Peterson speaking. But Lucchesi, I'm not too fond of. I think that, Louis Rojas should not start him. Have him come in maybe in the second or third inning or maybe fourth inning if you can. If you can get you 2 or 3 innings, be in a middleman in between, depending on certain situations as who is batting and so on and so forth. Yeah, then you use that kind of strategy. I think that works fine. But it's tough to determine exactly the whole rotation this weekend for the Mets. The Marlins, like I said, more than likely Lopez tomorrow. I could see Poteet, who started their last game in the rotation, may come in and get a second start. And then you have the lefty Rogers, who's 6-2 with a 1.74 earned run average so far this year. Has been their best pitcher thus far. So we might see him in either Sunday's game or maybe Saturday's, but I'm thinking more Sunday. And if it's not him, it's going to be more than likely Curtis. And that means we will avoid Rogers. So we'll see. Right now, Lopez and Stroman for tomorrow. So let's look at Stroman and at the numbers of Stroman. Okay, so let's go over to my screen here, and we look at team pitching stats, right? So I look at obviously standard pitching stats. So if we look at the teams in general as far as pitching, we're gonna get back to Stroman and Lopez for a minute. Let's just look at the whole pitching staff right now as it is, and as you can see, the Mets right now, their pitching staff has a 3.29 earned run average as a team, and Miami's at 3.60. But then again, look here, 39 games by the Mets. Miami has played 4 games more than the Mets have this year, so a lot of these numbers are going to look a little bit more higher for the Marlins. But then again, we're still going to look through them and to see if there's any advantage here with the pitching staffs of who may have the better, where we can lean at. Does the Mets have a better chance to be able to get 2 or 3 games out of here just with pitching alone? Or is it going to be the Marlins? So we move down the list. Complete games, 1 for the Mets. They don't have a complete game. Shutouts, 5. Saves, 9 and 8. We're not going to worry about that. But look over here as far as innings pitched, 312, 369.2 for the Marlins. Again, they've played 4 more games than we have. The hits. The Marlins, I have all this in red here because these are areas that are concerning. The Marlins have given up 321 hits. That's about 70. That's about maybe 50 somewhat more hits or 60 somewhat more hits than the Mets, with 4 games left. So they've given up 9 or 10 more hits per game if you look at that stretch there of 4 games. And their runs, 162 to 138. So they give up a walloping a lot of runs. All right. Their earned runs as well is very high, 148 earned runs in those 43 games and in those 369 innings. The Mets have 114. They've given up 37 home runs, so hopefully we'll be able to find some pop in our bats and be able to drive some balls. But now the factor is Pablo Lopez the guy that we're going to be able to tattoo, or is it going to be one of the other 2 guys that may pitch Saturday and Sunday? So again, we're looking at the overall pitching staff. I like the numbers here. It seems like the Mets have a better pitching staff, but the Marlins could be pretty tough depending on who they're going up against. So if they bring in Rogers on Sunday, who's been their best pitcher to date, he may be a tough person to deal with for our beloved New York Mets. We'll see. Home runs to 37 and 25, like I said. Hit batters, they've hit a lot of batters too, 24. The Mets have had 18. Base on balls, 125. Strikeouts, they have a lot, but they're only 12 more strikeouts than the Mets. So that shows that we strike out more batters per 9 innings than they do, simply because we've played 4 games less. All right. The whip, 1.14, better for the Mets, just slightly, not a whole lot. And of course, both teams have opponents batting very, very low. The Mets, 222 opponents are batting against the Mets pitching staff. That is really, really dreadful. And then the Miami has done okay as well at 233 batting average. So I would say here the thing we're looking for, you can get some hits. We can get on base. If we can possibly drive a couple balls and get a couple, maybe even hit a home run, we will be able to take advantage of these numbers here. These numbers say that they are capable of walking players. They're capable of getting home runs, and they're capable of also giving up a lot of earned runs. So we're hoping that Pablo Lopez and everybody else in that staff that pitches this weekend has a rough go at it. But again, this is why we play the games. We don't know, so we can't just go by stats. But especially if you're doing fantasy sports, you should definitely look at statistics and some of the stuff that's going on, whether what stadiums you're playing in, because some are pitchers park and some of them are hitters parks. So all that comes into play when it comes to fantasy baseball. But as far as just deciding here, do the Mets have an opportunity with their pitching staff to dominate and possibly win 2 or possibly all 3 games and sweep the Marlins? Yeah, it looks like they can. So let's look a little bit deeper here, all right? So when we look at the Mets as far as versus lefty, with lefty hitters hitting our pitching, we're ranked second. Lefties are having a hard time pitching against our pitching staff. We are only, our earned run average is 2.47 in 123.2 innings. We've only given up 99 hits, 44 runs, 34 earned, which is still a high number. Okay, 7 home runs, don't like that, but it's a lot less than the Marlins, as you can see. The Marlins have given up 18, and they've played 4 more games, as we know. So that's what averages to about another maybe 3.5 home runs a game. Give or take. I mean, if you just want to just go with those numbers. Base on balls, 58 to 46. Strikeouts about even between the teams, and everything else seems even. As far as average is concerned against lefties, lefties are only hitting 246 against the Mets, but the same for the Marlins, all right? Marlins pitching has held opponents at 246. Then we look against righties, and when you look at the two teams, you got to look at how many righties and how many lefties. Well, Marlins are more heavy right-handed team than the Mets. The Mets have a few more lefties than they do, and they actually have 2 switch hitters in Lindor and VR. So, of course, with the injuries right now, we're losing out on a few guys, with Conforto being a lefty and McNeil. But give or take going into the matchup tomorrow, the teams are going to be probably even. But I think still, nonetheless, Miami will have more righties. So then you got to look at that stuff. So against righties, Mets against righties have had a little bit more of a trouble with them. They're ranked 9th in the league, while the Marlins are ranked 5th. So they've done better. They got a 3.54. The green is stating that they have the advantage there. And then we have 156 hits for the Mets to 170 hits for the Marlins. Now, I put the 156 because the Marlins, obviously, they've given up more hits, means that they've given up more hitting. And the Mets have given up a little less, but they have done it in 188.1 innings. So when we look at over here, some other areas, they're pretty even in home runs, 19 apiece, earned runs, 80, 82. That's pretty much balanced the same. 94 and 90 as far as runs scored, righties on, Mets pitching. Based on balls, 54, I like that number, and we've given up only 8 home runs compared to their 13. So there is an advantage there. They've given up more home runs overall between lefties and righties than the Mets have. So hopefully our pitching staff will be able to keep that at bay against this team. And then, of course, we're hoping that they make some mistakes and we're able to drive some balls. Strikeouts, 213 to 224. So, again, I think here, righty-lefty situation, Mets will probably be a half and half tomorrow, maybe 3 lefties, so 4 or 5 righties. And I think the Marlins have got about 7 guys that are pretty much righties and only have 1 switch hitter, and they have 1 lefty in Corey Dickerson. So, I mean, we'll see how that pans out. I don't know what the lineup looks like tomorrow, but I'll be able to know more for tomorrow's game preview. Then we look at lefty hitters. This is lefty hitters. This is actually the pitchers going into tomorrow. So I based this only on the pitchers going into tomorrow. I looked at their numbers. Stroman versus lefties at 1.88. The lefties have had trouble with Stroman. 24 innings pitched against lefties. 19 hits have been given up. 6 runs. 5 of them earned. 2 home runs. 2 hit batters. 5 base on balls. He's had 17 strikeouts. We know Stroman is not a big strikeout pitcher. But everybody's batting 224 against him, and his whip is at 1 on the nose, 1.00. So he is very good in that aspect there. He's doing excellent against lefties. Again, you're not going to see as many lefties as you're going to see righties, and that's where he struggles. He sees more righties, and righties do hit Stroman a little bit better. Not brutally bad, but he has had his trouble against righties. When you look at Lopez against lefty hitters, he's got lefty hitters at 2.28, which is not too bad at all. That's a pretty good earned run average. In 23.2 innings pitched, he's given up 27 hits, way more than Stroman, about almost the same amount of innings. So that shows that he has a vulnerability to possibly maybe give up a few more hits than Stroman would. For 8 runs, 6 earned, 1 home run, 1 hit batter, and he has walked 8 guys, so he has a tendency of walking a few, but he does get his share of strikeouts. He has 21, and the teams are batting 278 against him. So that's a higher number. That's actually a very respectable number for a team, or as you know, for any batter in the MLB. To be batting 250, 260 or better, that is not bad. This is 278 as a team. So the lefty hitters, but unfortunately for the Mets, if we think about it, We don't got a lot of lefties going tomorrow other than Lindor. I mean, because you got no Conforto, you got no Jeff McNeil. Those are big guys there. So you're going to see Dom. So it's going to come down to Dominic, Smith, Lindor, guys like that come through. Jonathan VR. If they got it in, they're facing a righty tomorrow. So those guys will be batting lefty. That's going to be the case right there. So I think here the advantage is definitely for Stroman against lefties. Lopez is not too bad against lefty hitters, but I think there is a chance there for the Mets to do something with the lefties that they can get ahead of him. And then versus righties, Stroman 3.63, while Lopez at 3.91, almost 4 earned runs. That is a tough number there. Stroman is pretty high as well, 22 and 25 innings respectively. And then when we look at the hits, Stroman has given up 22, Lopez 18. The only good thing here is that both guys earn run averages averages. The guys are batting 227 and 207 respectively against these guys. So they have had their issues where they've given up, in this case, home runs, a few base on balls, Lopez especially with 8. Those have hurt him against righties. So again, I still think that Stroman, if you're looking at these numbers and you're looking at the pitching staffs, I think the Mets pitching staff is stronger than Miami going into the series. And I think also Stroman going in tomorrow, if he is pitching tomorrow against Lopez, he has an advantage over Lopez. All right. So now we looked at the pitching staff. Now we're going to think about how the hitters have done against these respective pitchers. Well, to be honest with you, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot has happened. There is a very small sample size when it comes to pitchers versus batters or batter versus pitchers here. Pablo Lopez versus the Mets, he's only faced 5 Mets on his team. Nieto, Smith, Alonso, Lindor, and Peraza. That is it. Okay, Pablo Lopez. And then when you look at Stroman, Stroman has not faced the Marlins yet. So this is in a way good news or bad news. It could be 50-50 because Stroman keep these guys off balance, be able to be in charge of his pitches, have great command, and be able to work his slider and his cut fastball and be effective tomorrow. If he keeps the ball down, the Marlins may have some trouble, or he's going to leave some balls up and these guys are going to tattoo him for the first time they face him. We don't know. But as far as batters versus pitchers, I got very small sample size. There is no advantage to any one of the two teams, in my opinion, when you have Nieto only facing Mr. Lopez once in his career, and he's 0 for 1 with a run score and a 1 base on balls. Dominic Smith has had 6 plate appearances, and he is 1 for 6. So he has not done good against Lopez. He does have a double. That one hit was a double, 1 run score. He has struck out, and he's only batting 167. Those obviously very small sample size. You can't go with those numbers in this case here because it's just not enough at bats. All right, and then Alonso, who's not going to be playing, he's 1 for 9. Lindor is 0 for 3 with 1 K, and Jose Peraza 0 for 2 with 1 K. These players, these 5-6 players, are averaging 0.95 against Lopez. That's just not enough. There's not enough at bats there to really determine if Lopez really has an advantage over the Mets. So we will have to just wait and see and let the game be played out. I'm hoping that we tattoo him and that we're able to get things done. We see that he does struggle against righties, and he does have a little problem with some lefties. So hopefully everybody gets on board, stays focused, cuts the ball in half, be disciplined at the plate, stay back on the off-speed pitches, and let's drive the baseball and make things happen. And possibly we could put up a number of runs to put us in a position to pull out this game. So that's what we hope for. So looking at the pitching matchup, I think Stroman has the edge, and I think the Mets, not just to be biased, I think the Mets have the better pitching staff. All right. So let's move on to team batting, right? So we're looking at the batting. Let me get a moment to get some water. So we look at batting versus lefties and versus righties. This is what we just had discussed a few moments ago with the pitching. Now we look at the hitters. And when you look at the hitters, let me just close these windows here. When you look at the hitters, okay, Miami is ranked 16th. Okay, batting against lefty pitchers. 16th in the league. The Mets are 19th, so they are ahead of us by 3 ranking points. But they have had 401 at-bats to our 290 again. Let's remember, the Marlins have played 4 more games than the Mets. 56 runs scored, 94 hits, 24 doubles. The Mets only have 8 doubles. That is pretty bad against lefties. 8 two-base hits against lefties. They have 24 with 1 triple, 14 home runs, 56 RBIs. As you can see, this is all green. The advantage to them there. They're pretty tough against lefties as far as hitting, okay, against lefty pitchers. But again, this is against lefties. They probably not going to face a lefty unless Joey pitches on Sunday, because Jordan Yamamoto is a righty. So these numbers are not going to come into play unless Joey Lucchesi comes in, or we have one of the guys from the bullpen like Loop or someone come in and pitches that are lefties. But they have done fairly well against lefties. 234 batting average, not substantial. It's not nothing big. Okay, they do have a decent OPS at 0.708. All right. The Mets' only advantage here is they have struck out a lot less than the Marlins. In 4 games less, they have only struck out 81 times against lefties. All right. They don't have too much stolen base, and they have OPS of 0.328, which is a little bit higher than the Marlins. So I say the favor here is Marlins hitters against lefties. They have done fairly well. Now we look at the righties, where they stand against righty pitchers. The Marlins are 21st in the league in the majors. The Mets are 18th. They have had 998 at-bats compared to the Mets 894. That's a differential of 104. I put that down here. Then we look over here, doubles. Mets have 38 doubles. They have nearly 104 less at-bats. Okay, they have played 4 less games, and that is impressive. Okay, that is impressive to be a positive 2 here over the Marlins at 36. They do have 228 hits. Again, you got to remember they have 4 more games than we have. They have 7 triples. They got guys that are pretty quick. They're going to have triples. The Mets are not a triple hitting team, so we're not going to have a whole lot of those. Home runs 25. We're right there. We're just a -5 in that category. And then RBIs 101 and 94. That's not too bad considering, okay, -7 and -5 for a team that's played 4 less games than their opponent. Based on balls, Mets have had 90, which is an advantage. They have walked more so against righties than the Marlins have. And this is a problem here. Strikeouts. I put that big red there. 293 strikeouts for the Marlins. That's a slew of strikeouts. That is an advantage for a strikeout pitcher. Now, granted, Marcus Stroman pitching Friday is not a shutdown strikeout pitcher, so, that's a concern. So, I mean, doesn't mean that he's going to have, but he's capable of getting 4 or 5 strikeouts a game. They can be impressive, have one of those games where he can get 7 or 8, but he's not going to go and blow away 12, 13, 14 strikeouts. Again, the games have to be played. You never know. But on average and historically, he has not been a strikeout pitcher. He's not going to overwhelm anybody with 93, 94 mile-an-hour fastballs. But what he does good is he keeps the ball down, moves the ball around quite a bit in the strike zone, picks his shots and his corners, and when he's consistently hitting those spots, he is pretty effective in getting his usual ground balls, which you're going to talk about in a moment. So strikeouts, 293, that's overwhelming. That's a 58 differential compared to the Mets. And then stolen bases, they got a little bit more. Again, we got a couple guys banged up. There would be more base stealers. We lose out on Pilar. And then, of course, we don't have Converto, we don't have Nemo, and we don't even have McNeil. All those are guys that are capable of getting a couple of steals here and there. But overall, the numbers everywhere else here, as you see, I didn't highlight anything because they're pretty much balanced for slugging percentage, OPS, on-base percentage. They're all pretty much right there near one another. They're very, very close. So surprisingly, 228 batting average to 229, respectively, against righties. But then we're going to get to some interesting categories. When we go up here and we look at team as far as how well they hit the ball, how many line drives, what kind of percentage of ground balls and fly balls. Well, the Mets and the Marlins here, line drives, the Mets are about almost 2.5% better at hitting balls on a line than the Marlins do. The Marlins at 19.9, pretty much 20, so you look at about 2% better. Ground ball rate, 46% of the balls that the Marlins hit are ground balls, while the Mets at 44.3% clip. Fastballs, 34 to 33.7. Balls that are pulled to whatever side of the field they're pulling at, 37.5 to 38.3. Pretty close between the both teams. And this is opposite field hitting. The Mets, they're not great at opposite field hitting, but this also shows that the Marlins are not either. At 26.4 and the Mets at 26.10. That's pretty much dead even. Balls hit to the middle of the field, 36 and 35.6. Pretty much even as well. Soft contact. This is the balls hit very softly on the ground. Miami 17.7, better than the Mets 18.4, but not by a whole lot. This medium contact here, 53.3, is important. The Mets usually 53.3, and then look at Stroman, 59.2% of the balls are hit. Ground balls of his are very medium contact. He doesn't get a lot of balls softly hit, but he doesn't give an overwhelming large percentage of hard hit balls at 31.7. And then, of course, hard hit percentage here. Miami hitting the ball a lot harder than the Mets when they make contact, 31.2% of the time as opposed to the Mets, 28.3%. So, again, I kind of like, it's tough to say, especially with the Mets situation right now with the guys that are playing. Will we be able to have these numbers, be respectable over the course of these 3 games? It's hard to say. But this gives us an idea of where the teams are at. And then when we look at the teams individually as far as the pitches they see and how they handle them. Well, Miami, 52.7% of the time, they handle fastballs pretty well. The Mets, 54%. So I gave the nod to the Mets there simply because we've been able to hit the fastball better. Sliders, Marlins have an edge there, 20.5% to the Mets, 17.9%, nearly 18%. So about a 2.5% difference. Cutters, it seems like both teams don't hit them well, or they don't see a whole lot of them. And I think that's what it is. They don't get a lot of pitching, or they haven't seen enough opponents that throw a lot of cutters. But 5.8, they're dead even at both of them in that category. Curveballs, 8.4% for the Marlins. The Mets do hit the curveball 9.2% of the time. That's a very low number. Love to see that number in the 15, 16 range, maybe before the year is over the next few weeks. When we see more better curveball pitchers, I think a lot of teams are always going to suffer, and they're going to be very difficult to hit curveballs, especially if somebody's throwing and they actually throw a very good curveball. It is tough to hit. Changeups, it's a real big staple of an off-speed pitch nowadays in the major leagues. It wasn't big 20, 25, 30 years ago, but now it is, and rightfully so. It really, really changes the speed of the ball. And if you're throwing 95, 98, 99, you can throw a changeup, 6, 7 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. Lower than that, you're going to definitely get a lot of guys off balance there. So 12.4% for the Mets. Then we go to sacrifice. As far as split finger fastballs, only 1.3% of Mets under percent. So not a whole lot there. But let's look at these numbers here. Stroman, these are his numbers. The opponents of hitting line drives off of his pitches, 21.9% of the time, the balls are hit their line drives, while Lopez is 22.5%. They're kind of even there, but this is where Stroman is strong. Ground ball rate, his percentage, 54% of the time the ball is hit by opponents off of Stroman's pitches, 54% of the time they're ground ball. So we know, and we've known this for a while already, Stroman is a ground ball pitcher. He doesn't give up a whole lot of fly balls. 24.1% of the balls hit are fly balls. And look at the difference here. That number, 32.6, is a high number. So 32.6, if we can get the ball in the air and then we can hit the ball either, at least at that 53% rate that we are right now, there's a chance that we may be able to hit some gappers, maybe be able to hit some balls out of the park. We hope for the best. Maybe the humidity is up. If the roof is open, that definitely helps the ball carry a little bit. We could be able to get an advantage there with the pitching. I still think that Stroman is the better matchup pitcher tomorrow. The numbers are showing that. If we look over here, Stroman, 59% of the time, those ground balls are pretty much hit medium. That's the medium speed. That's that medium contact and that 9.2 slow contact. Those are the ground balls, and that's the reason why. So he's a big ground ball pitcher, while Lopez is more 43% ground ball rate is pretty good. He does give up quite a bit of fly balls, almost 8% more than Stroman. So I'm looking for the Mets to drive the ball tomorrow. These are basically the numbers, the team stats that I like to look at. I use them also for fantasy to make decisions on pitchers and all that. So I kind of, use this information on a regular basis. I thought it would be cool to share that with fellow baseball fans and Met fans because, I ain't gonna make a judgment on what I think the game is what's gonna happen in the game unless I have an idea of more or less how hitters have done well. I could speak for the Mets, but I can't speak about every opponent that the Mets play. So this is how I get a gauge, and then of course I base it on that, and from of course the knowledge of watching those teams who play the Mets throughout the course of the year. So you have a general idea because some teams have the same players for a while, but this is the breakdown, man. So those are the team batting. That I went over the pitching stats. I went over the injury report. And tomorrow I'm going to be going over pretty much the same thing. We're going to look at the matchup again. We're going to determine if Stroman is really pitching. Maybe we'll have an idea what's going on Saturday and Sunday as well by tomorrow. But today is Thursday. But right now, offhand, I really, truly believe the Mets going to have an opportunity here to do well against the Marlins. I'm bringing myself back here on camera so you guys can see me. So, that's where we at. So Comment down below. Let me know what you think of the numbers and what do you think is going to happen or what you think might possibly happen over the weekend. I think the keys for success for the Mets this weekend, especially going into the first game tomorrow, obviously it is to be able to have discipline. Okay, there's a number of times that, discipline, meaning the mindset has got to be right. I mentioned that earlier in the video. I coach kids for 17 years and, you're 12-year-olds, 10 years old, all the way to like 17, a lot of years involved in that and been able to, really get a gauge of the mindset. Is so important in baseball and every sport for that matter, not just baseball, any sport. So, if you're a team sport or you're an individual sport, it does not matter. Your mindset has got to be right. You got to be an animal. You got to be a totally different person. You cannot be, Marcus Stroman. That's why Stroman is Stroman. But when he's on the mound, he's talking to himself. He's just another guy. He's totally different. He's trying to focus on being what he needs to be successful for the team. And sometimes you just got to psych yourself up for it. So especially with pitching, you got to be an animal as a pitcher. If you don't have that mindset, you're going to lose it. You can't be a softie. You can't be softer than a jelly donut as a pitcher. There's just no way. It's not going to work. But as far as the keys to the success for this game, obviously going into tomorrow's game, I really do believe that Stroman has an edge over Lopez if that's who they're going up against. I do believe that Stroman, ground ball pitcher, if he can keep the ball down in the zone, his splitter, his slider, and his cut fastball are being effective in hitting his targets. If he can stay, most important thing, man, the approach has got to be right. Have your approach, locate, make sure you're consistent. If he's able to do that, because the last game, he had some balls that floated up, didn't have the consistency, didn't have control and command of his pitches, and he got rocked a little bit. And I expect him to come back and be a little bit more, focused tomorrow and ready to go and gunsling and do his thing. And that's be really, really tough with his 4 pitches, and he's capable of being very, very tough. Get those ground balls, make it easy for your defense. Let's go out and do that. Now, if Stroman does that, then the pitching aspect of the game is good. But when it comes to hitting, with some guys banged up, we need to finally have McCann, Lindor to become part of this offensive weaponry that we need. Because Peraza, VR, these guys are coming through. VR is coming through. Dom Smith is starting to hit a little bit more. We need all these key guys, obviously, and whoever plays, if Khalil Lee plays or if it's Cameron Maybin. I don't know what's going to be the lineup tomorrow, but everybody should, one, be aggressive at the plate. First things first, when you start a game, I don't know what anybody's opinion is on this, but this is my opinion on it. You look to find a ball to hit, drive the ball, be aggressive in your first at-bat. When you get to the second at-bat against the same pitcher, by then you should have an idea. If you've been focusing and watching the game throughout the first 2 innings, you should have an idea of how his approach is, how he's reacting. Does he have his velocity? Does he have his location? Does he have command of his pitches? That's the way I used to watch the game and play it. That's just the way you do it. I just don't get some of these young athletes. They're major leaguers. They're talented, but you got to stay in the game. So if they can stay in the game, be in the dugout, be observant of what's going on. You got to know the situation when you come to the plate. How many runners are on base? What's the situation on the field as far as how they're playing you? Okay? Look to see if there's any gaps. It's tough to hit a baseball, but you should have an idea of what you need to do. Is this pitcher struggling? Has he thrown 15 pitches in that inning to one batter? Did he just walk a batter with 4 complete balls in a row? All these things you got to understand, and you come to the plate and have a better approach of what you're going to do. You're going to take a pitch or two, or you're going to be aggressive. Take a pitch or two. If he's been locating his spots and he's been consistent, and he's been getting guys out, and he's getting the calls from the umpire, then you're going to have to really, really get focused and look for a ball to drive and be able to cut. And then when you do that, you want to be able to drive a ball, cut the ball in half, stay on the top half of the ball. Don't get under the ball. Don't try to hit home runs if it's not there. Home run is a mistake anyway. It's a mistake by a pitcher. He didn't get his location and you were able to tattoo it. That's the way the home runs are done. So again, very, very important. Come to the plate. Be ready to go. To know what your situation is. And of course, very important, your whole approach at the plate has to be smart. And when you're on the base paths, be smart. But if we don't make mistakes and we have the right approach at the plate, the right mindset, know the situation, all right? Runners on base, let's try to advance the runners. Let's get better with that average of runners in scoring position. We have to get better with that. We're showing signs of coming out of it, but not from the key guys that we want. Like Lindor has been a bust with guys on base. McCann has been horrible with guys on base. We got guys like Nieto and VR and Pilar before he got hurt that was coming through in those situations, and they're not regulars. McNeil was struggling. McNeil was actually looking better in his last few at-bats before he got hurt. So he may come around at some point. But we can get all those guys back healthy and everybody on the right track, in the right, with the right frame of mind, with the right approach at the plate, we're going to be fine. How it works out over this weekend with all those guys hurt, we're going to still have the guys that have not been coming through, like I said, McCann and Lindor, they got to come through. It is time. Don Smith is going to have to produce a little bit more. These guys got to be the leaders of the team. They got to step up. But as far as pitching is concerned, I think going into tomorrow, I think the Mets have a shot. So the keys to success for the Mets going at least to tomorrow is Marcus Stroman being effective, having a right approach at the plate, attacking the plate, keeping the ball down, making sure he utilizes all his pitches, keep guys off balance, and get those ground balls, and he'll be just fine. Don't keep balls up. Don't give anybody an opportunity to drive a baseball. And, of course, he's a good fielding pitcher, so if you can get a couple ground balls to yourself and you can get some guys out, that'll be great. And then, of course, hitting, we got to get on base, be aggressive in your first at-bats. If a pitcher's struggling, take more pitches, make the pitcher work, okay? You want to make him look bad. You want him to feed you and give you something that you can handle and be able to do that. And if you can do that, the Mets will be able to get some hits. If they can get 4 or 5 runs tomorrow, manufacture some runs, maybe steal a couple of bases with guys like VR, on base, or Lindor if he can get on, it could be a very nice night for the Mets. But we're going to recap a little bit more. We're going to look into it a little bit more again tomorrow. But that's where we stand right now, man. Again, if you like the information that I'm giving you, you like the content, you want to know more about Mets baseball, you want to be a part of the community here, the only thing I need you to do is support the channel, drop a like, appreciate it. Thank you for those who come in. And comment down below. Let me know what you think going into this series, what's going to be happening going into tomorrow's matchup between Stroman and Lopez. Give me your input. I would love to interact with you guys. Other than that, man, if you want to just be part of the community, hey, great, fantastic. That'll be awesome too. Make sure you subscribe before you go. Don't forget to put on your post notifications as well, because this way you'll be able to get the content as soon as I drop it. And like I said, there'll be content on a regular basis pertaining to Mets baseball or any big news that happens in the MLB. So if you're a diehard Met fan, you bleed orange and blue, you love MLB, hey man, make sure that you drop that love down there, drop a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night. We're going to discuss tomorrow. I'm going to come back with a game preview of tomorrow's matchup, depending on those pitchers. Hopefully it's Stroman versus Lopez. Hey, peace out. See you on the next one.